Divorce lawyers of Reddit. What's the most outrageous reason someone filed for divorce? To avoid prison. Guy came in saying he was going to be indicted for many things. The list would have been impressive if it wasn't all so sickening. So, he wanted to marry his accomplice because he saw on TV that your spouse can't testify against you without your permission and the accomplice had cut a deal. He just needed to get this pesky marriage to his current wife dissolved. A man filed for divorce because he couldn't stand listening to his wife make the R sound after every drink. Apparently it got to him over the years. Guy came in and wanted to divorce his wife because he found out that she was still married to some other guy. He then asked me if he needed to tell his other wife that he was married to this wife. This was a free legal clinic and everyone was homeless. She couldn't stand the sight of him anymore. I was in the military at a recovery unit. Just reporting in. I heard her saying this to a chaplain while he sat there. In a wheelchair. Majority of his skin was covered in burns. 1,000-yard stare. No emotion. Oh boy, I've been working at a family law firm for 3 years and I have heard some crazy stuff. For example. 1. We handled the divorce for an older man, 70s. BC he was cheating and wanted to be with his mistress. 2 years go by. He comes back to divorce the mistress. BC he's been cheating on her with his first wife. 2. Wife found photos of her husband dressed up as a ballerina. 3. Husband files for divorce. BC wife does cocaine. He brings us photos of her with coke on her bare boobs. Then admits he took the photos. Then admits he's the one with the coke habit. 4. Wife filed for divorce. BC she didn't want to relocate to a neighboring state for his promotion. 5. Couple with open marriage both end up jealous and call different law firms. And file separate complaints for divorce within hours of each other. Because she bought a $3,500 dog as a surprise and when she sent him the picture he responded with this kind of impulsive bull poop is why your family is poor. Former paralegal here. I worked for a small firm and we had woman come to file a full divorce and husband was to blame. She filed out the paperwork but didn't put a reason which we need for full divorce, you know. My boss and I sat down with her and ran down the reasons. Abusive to her? No. He never raised his hand to her. Abusive to the kids? No. He was a great father. Cheating? No. He was faithful. Addictions? No. He never drank or did drugs. Actually he was, but we'll get to that in a minute. Having hanky-panky with you? Yep. Money trouble? Nope. What was the problem? Dude. Couldn't quit looking at porn. He was a porn addict but the wife didn't consider that addiction because it wasn't drugs or alcohol. You're probably thinking what's weird, that seems like normal reason to file and people probably do. Dude was addicted to goat porn. Like farm animals. She brought in hundreds of pages of his porn searches and saved files. It wasn't even people having hanky-panky with goats, it was goats having hanky-panky with other goats. He also liked to watch mules be bred. It was strange to say the least. We called him the goat, grossest of all time. There was some human in animal stuff but the goats are what stuck with me. I'm betting he isn't allowed near petting zoos. My friend's wife divorced him because he wasn't black enough. He immigrated to the US from Eritrea and I guess somehow that's not black enough. Overheard in court one day a woman wanted to divorce her husband because he likes taking pictures of trains. And had been doing so for years before. A man wanted to divorce his wife, fault and no fault type of divorce, because she was diagnosed with cancer. I did maybe 5 divorces. I had one client who, after I met her soon to be ex-husband, stated, "Do you see how retarded he is? That's why I have to divorce him. If I had known how retarded he was, I never would have married him." The guy fired his lawyer once a month and constantly tried to file obviously fabricated or altered documents when he was between counsel. Eventually, very favorably for my client, we settled since he couldn't find someone to take his case and was looking at felony charges for all the fake documents. I loved that case because it was just such a circus and my client was very reasonable. She saw him in bike shorts and said she could never be sexually attracted to him again. Not qualified, but butting in nevertheless with a story my physician brother told me. His patients tell him everything. One of his patients got divorced because after his girlfriend and he got married. The girlfriend began bugging him about quitting the meds he was taking for depression and anxiety, because she should be enough or some such thing. He eventually did. Then later she wanted a divorce because he wasn't the same guy she married. 30 minutes after the wedding, bride found him having hanky-panky with one of the bridesmaids. That story shocked me. It was my stepdad's client. I had a woman call and say she needed an annulment but couldn't find her husband. And hasn't seen him in years. I corrected her that it would be a divorce, not an annulment. She told me they never consummated the marriage so it couldn't be a divorce. I told her that hasn't been the law in a long time. And she fought me on it. I asked her how exactly she intended to prove to the judge with evidence that her marriage wasn't consummated. And that got her upset enough to hang up on me. Friend and her husband got bored in the bedroom. So the husband convinced his female co-worker, who was a lesbian, to join in. Friend decided she liked her better and divorced him to be with a co-worker. They got married and she eventually left her too for her new male co-worker. So yeah. Co-workers. Man. After 7 years of marriage, a husband, unbeknownst to the wife, started trying to convince their nanny to have a threesome. Telling her his wife would be really into it. He was a Wall Street guy and she was a physician. And the nanny had been with them since their first kid was born 4 years earlier. The nanny finally made a move on the wife, who told her it was inappropriate. But a few months later, they got drunk. And they had that threesome. It turned into a regular thing. The husband was totally happy until the wife said she and the nanny were in love with each other. And she was leaving him for the nanny. During the custody proceedings, the husband tried to argue the nanny was an illegal immigrant, which was ridiculous. In the end, the wife got primary custody. 3 years later, the wife and nanny are still together, though they hired a new nanny. The 16-year-old stepson looked at her repeatedly with disrespectful eyes. My friend's parents, because she was tired of the husband being too short, the same height as when they started dating. He didn't file, but he said he videoed his stepdaughter in the shower for the sole purpose of forcing his wife to leave him. Not a divorce but an interracial couple from my high school had been engaged for almost a year and the man broke it off because races aren't supposed to mix. Divorce lawyer here. And to be honest, most divorces come down to 2 things. 1. Fighting too much, poor communication, usually about money, and 2. Cheating. Both are a symptom of falling out of love or realizing you didn't love them enough in the first place and something is the last straw. That's probably 97% of divorce cases right there. I don't think I've had too many unusual reasons for getting divorced. But family law is indeed full of drama and crazy situations. I once had to visit a client after she was involuntarily committed to a mental hospital. She thought she and her mechanic, who she had delusions was her boyfriend, were 2 halves of the reincarnated Jesus Christ. She was untreated bipolar. Also had a wife whose husband literally wore tin foil on his head and handcuffed her to a cabinet. She refused to press charges against him. The other party had a divorce lawyer on retainer. Not a lawyer. But this was big gossip at the church I went to. One of the more prominent members of the church filed for divorce because his wife was battling stage 4 ovarian cancer. His claim was that she was unable to perform marital duties. She died shortly after the divorce. People were pissed when they found out and he became a social pariah and left the church. My father divorced a woman who made his sandwich wrong. Well, she made it with an end piece. So he divorced her. He married 7 times. Never to my mother Mayo. The woman divorced this guy, who also happened to be a previous client of mine, so I knew him well, for refusing to take his opiates that were prescribed to him on a regular basis. Fart issues are a real thing. So, I'm not a divorce lawyer, but this happened to a good friend of mine. Her brother, Kevin, married a woman that started using Snuggle fabric softener. Kevin ended up having a crazy allergic reaction to the Snuggle, but his wife refused to stop using it because she liked it so much. Even when he washed his own clothes without it, it being used on her clothes still caused a reaction so badly he had to be hospitalized. Still yet, she refused to stop using Snuggle. So, they got a divorce over Snuggle. He was snoring too loud. That's it. That's the main reason. Not a lawyer, but my in-laws divorced because, straw that broke the camel's back, she hit him on the back of the hand with a wooden spoon for reaching into the food she was still cooking. My mom and stepdad, married when I was 4, been together 20 years. Wasn't a great marriage. So none of us kids were surprised when mom told us they were getting divorced. What she didn't tell us was that she was having an affair with a much older man, who is also still married, whose current wife has advanced stage Alzheimer's. And she hadn't told dad before she informed us kids. Women wants divorce because husband is not at home by 5 PM. She didn't understand that he had a job to do. He squeezed the toothpaste directly into his mouth instead of on the toothbrush. This is why it doesn't hurt to live with someone before you marry them. I remember seeing a thing where a man won the lottery, and his wife filed divorce so she could get the proceedings of the lottery as part of the divorce. The judge confirmed the divorce and either he kept all the money or she had to pay him. Not a lawyer, but I remember seeing on the news this guy wanted his kidney back from his ex-wife. Obligatory. Not a lawyer, but my cousin divorced her husband because she was gay. Always was and always had been. But only got married to appease her fanatically religious parents. The outrageous reason was because she completely blindsided the guy. She dated the first guy that fell in love with her. They got engaged after like 6 months. Had the whole white wedding shebang and got married quite young. I think she was 21, and 6 months after the wedding tells him basically thanks for playing along. Now here is the divorce papers and I'm running off to another state with my lover, who was the maid of honor by the way. He was not playing along. He had no clue. Saw a woman filed for divorce because her husband farted in bed. The wife said he left the fridge open twice. I looked at the guy and just said I'm sorry with an expression. A guy I know wanted a divorce because his wife had an affair with a junkie, unprotected sex, threatened suicide to their daughter's face and proclaimed her affair was a cry for help. Guy equals me. She never really loved him. She used him to get pregnant. They have 3 kids. She kept on urging him on to buy a brand new house in one of those cookie cutter neighborhoods. Her plan was to divorce him, take all 3 kids, and take the brand new house, but him pay for it, and have him pay child support on all 3 kids. Her lawyer wasn't comfortable with this at all, considering he had all their financial information, and husband was making just enough for all 5 of them to get by. Before husband was able to sign papers on a new house, her lawyer accidentally left a message on his phone, instead of her phone, going over the final draft of the divorce. Add-on: so where I live, both parties have to be aware of the divorce. You can't just sneak attack on your spouse, like this woman was doing. They have to have some knowledge of it. Even if one spouse just straight up shouts, "I'm gonna divorce you," that would count. So I don't think the lawyer is in a situation where he'd be in trouble for doing what he did. OP writing down the reasons until they find the right one to file for divorce.
Hi there. Look, if you enjoyed the video, well, why not go ahead and hit that like and subscribe to Reddit Stories. In fact, if you want to see even more responses to this thread, well then, take a look. There's the link in the description below. And remember, show some love to those authors while you're there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.